Assalamu alaikum dear viewers, how are you all? I hope you're great. I am Adan Khan and you're watching English Common Literature. Dear viewers, in this video we are going to discuss imagination and we will also learn some types of imagination with examples. So first and foremost, we will define imagination with example. Imagination can be defined as the ability to form or create mental image, ideas, concepts, or scenarios that are not present or perceived in reality. In other words, imagination refers to the creative ability to come up with ideas, concepts, or mental images that not necessarily based on reality or past experiences. Okay, now I will give you some examples of imagination. For example, a child imagining a world of fairy tales where animals can talk and mythical creatures exist. Second example, an artist creating a painting or sculpture or depicts elements that do not exist in the physical world. Third example, a writer describing a fictional world or character in their novel or short story. Okay, so dear viewers, these are the examples of imagination. Okay, so now we will learn some types of imagination with examples. First number type, sensory imagination. This type of imagination involves creating or recalling sensations like taste, smell, or touch. Okay, so this kind of imagination is called sensory imagination. Now I will give you example of sensory imagination. Picturing yourself sitting on beach, feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin, hearing the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, and smelling the salty sea air. Okay. Second type of imagination is creative imagination. This type of imagination involves the ability to come up with new ideas and solution to problems. Okay, so this kind of imagination is called creative imagination. Now I will give you examples of creative imagination. A designer might use creative imagination to come up with a unique and innovative product design. Okay, so this is the example of creative imagination. This kind of imagination we call creative imagination. Okay, so now the third type of imagination is emotional imagination. This type of imagination involves the ability to feel and understand emotions, both in yourself and the others. Okay, this kind of imagination is called emotional imagination. Now I will give you an example of emotional imagination. A writer might use emotional imagination to create compelling or relatable characters in their stories. So, dear viewers, this is the fine example of emotional imagination, and this kind of imagination is called emotional imagination. Okay, four number type is narrative imagination. This type of imagination involves the ability to construct stories and narratives in one's mind. Okay, this kind of imagination is called narrative imagination. Now I will give you an example of narrative imagination. A child might use narrative imagination to create an imagery world and storyline for their toys to inhabit. Okay, this is the fine example of narrative imagination, and this kind of imagination is called narrative imagination. Okay, dear viewers, now we will talk about spatial imagination. Spatial imagination, this type of imagination involves the ability to visualize and manipulate objects and spaces in one's mind. This kind of imagination is called spatial imagination. Now I will give you example of a spatial imagination. Okay? For example, an architect might use spatial imagination to design a building considering factors such as layout, flow, and functionality. Okay, so this is the fine example of spatial imagination, and this kind of imagination is called spatial imagination. Okay, now we are going to talk about the last type of imagination is social imagination. Social imagination, this type of imagination involves the ability to understand and predict social situations and behaviors. Okay, this kind of imagination is called social imagination. For example, a psychologist might use a social imagination to help individuals develop better interpersonal skills and navigate social situations more effectively. Okay, so dear viewers, I hope now your concept is clear and you have learned a lot about imagination and its types. Okay, so see you in next video. Allah Hafiz.